and glad to be your host today. We've got a great session lined up. As we like to do, we like to start by asking everybody to post in the chat where you are tuning in from. We love to see where throughout the state and sometimes beyond the state borders that we have participants from. So please post in the chat where you're tuning in from. Got Illinois, Tempe, southeastern Arizona, Pine Top, Parker. All right, we have a great spread already from throughout the state. Buckeye, Phoenix, down the street, Robert Garcia. All right.
Yeah.
Santan, Yuma, Scottsdale, Florida. All right. Thank you, Chelsea. Page, Lake Powell. Good morning, Deborah. All right. Again, if you're just joining, please post up in the chat where you're tuning in from. We always love to see that. So we got Maricopa. So we have a great scattering throughout the state, and a couple other states have joined us. So great to have everybody with us this morning. We've got a great session plan. It's going to be a little bit different than other sessions in the past, but we're excited to have it to do this format, and we'll get to that here in a bit. As we like to do, we like to start by thanking all of our community partners. We could not do these boot camp sessions without them, their time, and their expertise. For those that are new to the boot camp, the Small Business Boot Camp is designed to help small businesses prepare, plan, and grow. And it is not only a virtual webinar series every Tuesday morning, but we do some virtual workshops and hands-on workshops with some of our local experts and partners as well. And it is also the content library. That's a great part we don't want to forget and not talk about. We record all of our virtual sessions, so all the webinars and workshops that are virtual, and we post those recordings in our content library. And you can find well over 300 recorded webinars in that content library, and there's no cost to access those. You just have to go to the bottom of the bootcamp homepage, and you will find the last 3 sessions and a link to see all of them. So it's a great resource that we hope all of you can benefit from. The ACA also has a number of other programs to support small business throughout Arizona, whether it's manufacturing, small business, innovation, rural economic development, international trade, and others. You can find all those at azcommerce.com/programs, or you can scan that QR code that's right there on your screen. One of the programs that we always like to talk about is the small business checklist. This is a great tool for those looking to start a business or to grow their business into new areas. And it's an online interactive checklist that helps business owners identify the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance requirements at the local, state, and federal level. It also contains a lot of other great information to support business owners, and you can go on there and customize it just for what your needs or questions are. We also have our virtual assistant, Sally, who leverages some AI to help answer your questions. And you can access that page and see Sally right there by scanning that QR code, and it will take you to the checklist page. So as we look forward to some other sessions that we have, as I mentioned, we do some virtual workshops, and we have one this Thursday. It's a lunch and learn. It's understanding your business value and why it matters. So we're really looking forward to that session. We've got it scheduled for an hour and a half. It'll probably take most of that hour and a half, but we're looking forward to it. And then next Tuesday, we have a great session. It's our 350th regular boot camp session. And we've got our great friend, Chris Amos from No Boundaries Marketing will be on talking about building a website that converts and how to boost your business online. He's a great presenter and very knowledgeable on that topic, and we're excited to have him with us. And then we have a longtime partner of ours the following Tuesday at the end of the month on AI-powered blogging and SEO and how to supercharge your business growth using some of those AI tools. So that's the upcoming sessions. But today we've got a great session. We have our own ACA Senior Vice President of HR and Talent Management, Amy Bennett, with us today. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to pull up a short slide deck that we have that ties in with what we're going to be doing today. And today's session was going to be a Q&A, a question and answer session. And we've got a number of structured questions for Amy. And then we're going to open it up to questions that you may have. So as we're looking for our workforce and what may be trending in small business and things that you can do to help grow your business, we're going to talk about that. So as this slide kind of shares, we're going to explore in the questions we've developed key strategies to help support small business. We're also going to look at practical tools and to help build successful and strong teams, capable teams for both seasoned entrepreneurs and new businesses. So with that, we're going to go ahead and launch a couple. We're going to start by asking questions via polls. So we're going to pull up on the screen an HR poll. There's 2 questions. If you could just answer those real quick, it helps us understand the audience and helps Amy understand how to respond to some of the questions. So we'll give about a minute or so for these questions.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, we have looks like a good smattering of very small businesses, which are in the 1 to 5 range. And then we have 6 to 10 employees, and then a number with over 16 employees. And it looks like most people are planning to hire some sort of employee this year. So
That's
we'll
great.
stop sharing that, and we're gonna jump right into. We're gonna share those results. Stop sharing those. All right. So we'll jump right into this. Again, we've got this, and so our first question is: how can small businesses compete with larger companies to attract top talent?
Well, thank you, Robert, for the introduction. And before I answer this question, it's very helpful to understand who is participating in this webinar. I've been doing just a little bit of background on myself. As Robert mentioned, I'm the Senior Vice President of HR and Talent, and I've been in the human resources business, or the people business, here in the Phoenix Valley for, gosh, the better part of 25 years. Started in recruitment and have really touched all lines of business within the HR discipline. So really, I'm honored to be a part of this webinar and to share any knowledge that I have gained over the years. And as Robert also mentioned, this is a little bit of a different structure that I understand from other webinars that we've done. And so your questions for me are the most important. Again, we've come up with a set of structured questions that I'll spend some time on, but really understanding what you're looking for from us and what would be most beneficial to you. That's where I would want to take this. So with that, this is a small business group. And so how can you, small businesses, compete with larger companies to attract top talent? They're 2 different beasts. I think large companies, one of the main advantages they have are resources for recruitment, for hiring, onboarding, training. Working for a large company, you often will have different opportunity to, as an employee, to move into different areas or departments. I think sometimes disadvantage of those large companies is that you are one of many. So the exposure is not always what you have in a small business or a smaller organization. And that's, I think, a competitive advantage. So when you think about your business, where can your employees be exposed to, whether it's skills or different areas of the business, sales or some sort of facilities management. Why that kind of exposure to different opportunities, and I like to use the word play. I use that word oftentimes when I'm in recruitment and say, where do you want to play? Again, deliberately using that word because that's where I think you can start to determine a value proposition. We've got 10 employees and you get to wear all these hats. You get to play in all of these different areas. And there's a great competition there. So, and Robert, if you have any input, based on you being a leader in, in this space and in your own world for, 20 plus years, please, happy to bounce ideas with you as well.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Amy, on that. I've been in big business, I've been in small business in my career in varying roles, and in big business, very much one of many. You're competing with a lot more people for promotion opportunities, and you don't oftentimes may not get that opportunity you're seeking. When I was in small business, I was one of a group of 10 people at a corporate office, and we had multiple hats, and we did many different things. Even if it wasn't in my wheelhouse, I had to learn some stuff so we could do that and provide those services to our customers. And I learned a lot more and realized that a lot more of my experience transferred from the big business to small business in ways I hadn't initially imagined.
Yeah.
And so, but it was a lot of fun working in that small team and doing a lot of different things that, I wouldn't have normally done. So
That's exactly right. Yeah. And you oftentimes will have more opportunity to be a generalist. And I say that very positively, as opposed to a specialist in a large company. I can specialize in engineering or marketing or accounting and have one very specialized role and and that's my scope of responsibility. And that's fantastic. In another organization, you could wear all three of those hats. So again, it's how you really think about what's the value proposition of my business? Why do I want to work here? Why does an employee want to work here? And start thinking through that that narrative.
Yeah, and a lot of people may prefer, as you mentioned, instead of being that special, they may want to help build something. So smaller business looking to grow, you may be able to find those that are eager to help grow and show what they can do.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And
So
prove themselves as they want to grow their career.
Exactly.
Let's jump to the next question. So what are some creative ways to recruit talent without offering traditional benefits like healthcare and retirement plans? We know small businesses, sometimes the healthcare and retirement plans just aren't in the wheelhouse at the moment.
Yeah.
They won't be down the road, but
Yeah.
sometimes they can't offer those right away. So what are some ways to recruit that talent?
Well, certainly. So the healthcare is, if there's a way that you can find, whether it's now or in the future, to even provide some benefit around healthcare, that will be huge. It does not have to be, a program where you have 4 different medical plans to offer and different, it can be small, but healthcare is an important element. So if there's a way that you can afford that in your business, that would be great. But the creative ways to recruit talent, I'm going to go back to my value proposition. Why do I want to work here? Why does an employee want to work here? It could be flexibility in the work. And now if you're in a retail or service, you may not be able to have that, but let's not think of flexibility only in scheduling. There can be other ways that we can offer flexibility for an employee, especially in a post-pandemic world where the expectation of for work-life balance is higher than when it was 10 years ago. So flexibility, I would say, would be one. Opportunity to provide input, right? I'm going to I have a job to do, but if I feel valued and I feel like I have an opportunity to raise my hand and say, maybe we could do it this way, or have I'll use, air quotes, a seat at the table of sorts, that is really powerful for folks. We work for, of course, a paycheck, and that's our livelihood, but money falls very low on a list of, let's say, 10 elements for an employee in terms of importance. Um, Money is probably 6 out of 10. At the very top, it is, I would like to use my brain. I would like to feel valued, part of a team, something bigger than what I am, uh, greater than the sum of the parts, if you will. And if you can put that into a value proposition story and say, this is what we have to offer, the talent will come. The talent will come.
Yeah, and touching on just healthcare, we're not going to dive into it, but we have done some previous boot camps. So in that content library, we did one on what was called the PEO, a professional employment organization, on how that can benefit you as a small business. That can help with both healthcare and retirement plans for the very smallest businesses, and some associations that you can have the opportunity to join. For example, like the Arizona Tech Council, they have been able to create healthcare plans for their members with some of the healthcare providers in the state. So there are some alternative ways to look at that, but that could be a whole nother hour presentation. So we're not going to dive into it, but we do have recordings on that stuff in the boot camp.
Yeah, that's great, Robert. I had forgotten about PEOs, professional employment organizations. They often, there's different ones out there, but they often can have smaller suites of packages that are much more affordable to the size and scope of a small business.
Yep. I'm going to share with, if everybody wants to look at their chat, they can read this, but Becky, thank you, Becky, for sharing this. This is one of our participants said, we are knee deep in finding alternative types of benefits to make our company more desirable. We offer more flexibility with work schedules and family life balance. We have team lunches, celebrate birthdays, work anniversaries, etc. I'm also meeting with Talkspace tomorrow to learn about their plans for providing mental health care for employees. Also, our insurance broker just shared it with low cost per employee plan, accident, sickness, hospitalization. So Becky's getting creative. They're doing different stuff to make it a place where people want to work. So great job, and thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we'll jump to the next question. So are there specific job boards or social media platforms that are more effective for small businesses to recruit talent?
So my short answer for this question is yes, although I don't have a specific job board to share or to share with you. I would say even though LinkedIn is a very large platform, that is it is the largest professional network platform, and you can post at least for free one job at a time, I believe, for about 30 days. I've used it several times. And so having a LinkedIn presence, I think, is important. Even if it's a small presence, just saying we exist, this organization exists, and here are the employees that are a part of it. And you can use that to and LinkedIn should be free for you. You can, of course, upgrade to different levels as soon as you apply. If you haven't already been on there, I'm sure you'll get somebody from their sales department saying, "Hey, would you like to upgrade to a new account?" That's look into that. I would say any associations that you are a part of. Let's say it's a restaurant association. I'm trying to think of others. oftentimes there will be similar to SHRM, which is the Society for Human Resource Management. That's a very large national organization that I belong to, and I can post primarily for HR jobs because I'm a member of SHRM. So think about associations that you know, could pay a nominal fee annually for and use that their website to help recruit. If you can have if you've got a website, um, get a careers page on your website. At least you can post your own jobs there on your own website for free. It's a bit passive in that you're not pushing out the role, but you have a presence, and you can create an email address, you know, talent at ABC company. It's something easy, and that at least will be a way, even if you don't have a formal, what we call an applicant tracking software in your business, you can at least have an email address and an inbox to capture individuals. And then I would say even the larger job boards like ZipRecruiter and Indeed, they are going to want, they have different packages, and they will likely want to sign up folks for monthly plans. But I believe Indeed, and you'll have to fact check my my comments here. I believe Indeed has a plan to where it's per click. So it's much more affordable. If you're especially in this group, as I noticed in that first poll, that you're only hiring one person, then maybe it's, you know, whatever the price is, maybe that's enough. And you've got 30 days. Again, explore their packages. I cannot speak for what they offer. This is just coming from experience. But if you're looking for just that one person, that might be, I would say, something to explore. So LinkedIn, certainly your own careers page, just build it simple. It doesn't have to be fancy, but just this is where we can advertise an email address, associations that your business or service aligns with that you can tap into. And then the more popular job boards like LinkedIn or Indeed. I'll tell you, I'm not here at the AC. I've been here now just 2 years, but with a former employer, we had gotten to a point that our hires, where 50% of our hires were coming from referrals and just networking, just people talking to people, 50%. And that was an accomplishment. That was something that I was very proud of with my team, and that, yeah, we had just such a presence that we could talk and create our own little mini talent pipeline, and that's how we hired.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great point. When I've been out in the job search world before, as a job searcher, networking is also very important. So, you know, when you encourage your employees to share information, or if they know somebody, encourage them to make the introductions. You never know. You may not have an opportunity right now, but one may pop up and you might be able to hire it and not have to post it. Becky's thinking just like us because she posted up again, and I was going to comment on these exact same things. One thing, we're talking about social media, local Facebook community groups or neighborhood groups,
Yeah.
church groups can be very beneficial. My wife found her position because a friend of hers posted something on Facebook in a community group, in a neighborhood group. And so my wife's like, oh, hey, I'm interested. And that's how she got that position.
That's exactly right. I can think of Robert, one person here at the ACA, who found this job through, and I don't typically use social media like Facebook, but found the role that she is in here at the ACA because of a networking in it. She found it somewhere on Facebook. I said I didn't post it there, but that's you know, a testament to this networking, and great point on church organizations. Yeah.
And then Becky mentions in here Arizona at Work. They have job posting, they have resources to help you hire. So depending on what you're looking for, the level of the position, Arizona at Work may be a resource to help you out.
And what was that? Arizona, just Arizona, AZWORK?
AZ, yeah, AZ @ work. It's,
Okay,
I think it falls under the Department of Economic Security, but it's,
that sounds about, yeah.
but they are a state supported organization, that works with employers to post stuff. They can do a lot of great work to help people that are actively hiring.
There we go,
Um,
ArizonaJobConnection.gov. Thanks, Carol.
yeah. All right, jump to the next one. So what are the first steps I should take when looking to hire my first full-time or part-time employee, and how do I ensure I'm prepared?
What is the job? Start with a job description. What is the purpose? So think about what is the purpose of the role? Why does that role exist? Keep it simple. And then think about, all right, this is why this role exists. This is its primary purpose. And now, what are the key responsibilities? So really understanding what is the day in the life of even. Um, and be able to translate that into the next step after purpose, key responsibilities, minimum qualifications. What is the minimum bar that a person needs to possess that that I have to see before even beginning a conversation with that person? It could be that you want a high school diploma and 1 year of work experience. Does it matter what the work experience is? That's up to you. That's something to think about. What skills or experiences are transferable, right? I've hired in different roles in my career a number of individuals, and I might be a little bit biased here, that have come out of working as a server in a restaurant for years. I did that all through college, and I believe the skills that I gained, and certainly what I've seen in applicants and candidates that I've interviewed over the years, are just the highest degree of customer service and the ability to manage competing priorities. There's a term in the restaurant world called, when you're in the weeds. I think that's applied elsewhere, but being in the weeds and being able to, and that means you've just, your entire section has been seated at the same time and everybody wants more water and butter and what have you, and being able to manage through that, those skills that are gained from somebody who's been really successful as a server or bartender, I think those are transferable to a lot of different roles. So in answering this question, it is really start with the role. What is the job? And it could be very easy. I need somebody that to be a, I don't know, a receptionist, and they need to have technical aptitude. Some other roles might be a bit harder to define, but going through that exercise is critical. And then thinking about, all right, what skills do they have to actually possess? Meaning I need to know some element of engineering, and then also what skills are transferable based on all of their experiences.
Excellent, thank you. Let's jump to the next one. It says, how do I determine a fair and competitive wage for part-time or entry-level employees in my industry?
This one is yeah, so there's probably a whole webinar that can be done on compensation and how you build a compensation model for your company. First, I would say there's a lot of factors that go into creating a range, a salary range for a particular role. And industry is going to be one of them, but also company size is going to be another. A company that has 10 employees is not going to be competitive with a company that has 10,000 employees. It's just, it's a different ballpark. So industry, company size, geographical location. If you're right here in the middle of downtown Phoenix, that could affect a salary as opposed to someone in more of a rural area within our state. I would start by, so having said that, I would start by doing internet research. There's quite a bit now. Always, sprinkle some salt on your internet research, because if you just pull up glassdoor.com and say this is what the range is for a particular role, you're going to get a range that spans tens of thousands of dollars, because the survey is just so large. But if you continue, and this is how I do some of my salary research even today, is just combing through the internet, seeing what other positions that are similar to the one that I'm creating are posting for. And here's something, ZipRecruiter, about a year ago, I believe, and I think this is across the board with ZipRecruiter, is that they do force or require, I should say, a salary range, whether it is created by ZipRecruiter themselves and say, we'll create a salary range for you, or the employer puts it in. You have to have a salary range for Zip postings. So oftentimes I will go and look for a particular role and be on the Zip platform and just through the internet and say, oh, that's a similar role. Hold on, let me see let me go to that company's website. Let me see who they are, how large they are, and start building comparisons. You're not going to be too far away. Even though I've already said, put salt on your internet research, it's not going to be too far away if you touch it, 5, 10 different organizations that are similar to yours and have similar roles. I think we're going to get within ballpark of salary range, or a competitive range for that role. Entry-level employees, those are in fact a little bit, I think, easier to price. And it really depends on the role. And Robert, I don't know how much at liberty I am to offer even more personal guidance to individuals should they have questions about their particular role. I've done a lot of comp research in my time, so some of it comes to me pretty easily.
Yeah, and some people may want to reach out if that's okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I'm not unsure of my reach here. So yeah, if somebody would like to have a particular question about their individual company business, happy to, absolutely.
Yeah, Marty had asked in the chat about sharing your contact information, so we'll do that as
Yes,
we wrap up. We'll share that out.
yes. Just please do reference where you're coming from, meaning that you were a part of this webinar, so that I can make the association of who you are.
Yep, excellent. All right, so another one here is, where do I start when looking for an HR service provider?
And what do we think, yeah, of an HR service provider?
So this question, we kind of came up with it because we know a lot of small business owners. They're really good with what they do. HR is just one of the hats they have to wear. They
Yep.
aren't good at it. They don't like it. And there are organizations out there that can help with it. There are fees, but for many people, it's worth paying that extra fee for the service provider. So whether it's full HR services, partial HR services, PEO, where would they even start when looking for a service provider?
Great question. And I feel I'll be less able to answer this one with specifics, in that a PEO is a place to start. And there are dozens of PEOs out there that will cater to different industry sectors, company sizes, etc. HR is, it's often internal, even if you don't have an HR person inside. Learning about, self-educating about recruitment, employee relations, reaching out to organizations such as SHRM, because you don't have to be in HR to be a member of SHRM. I just got their, I think it's $300 a year or so. And they have, I mean, what a resource that has been. You can download job descriptions. You can look at white papers for, employee relations matters. You can take a look at labor and employment law. It's really a great resource if you have that money. Again, it's about $300 a year to be part of that membership. But otherwise educating yourself. HR is all about people. And I like to say that, we create all the processes in the world, but this is a human process and it doesn't follow a straight line.
Yeah,
That's
excellent. And there's some organizations, your accountant might be able to handle your payroll. Or they
precisely.
hiring a company that's specific to payroll. The PEO, someone asked in the chat, it stands for Professional Employment Organization. And they are essentially become a partner in your business, but not a partner in your business. It's
It's
a
like
really technical
outsourcing
term,
HR.
but they can do all the HR. They can do just basic HR, or they can handle the full suite of everything HR, including benefits and retirement.
Exactly. Benefits
And
administration, background checks, certain legal matters that may arise.
yeah,
So
and
yes.
some of you have probably heard of companies and not realize that they are these PEOs. One is ADP or Insperity or Paychex. Now, those are three of the very big ones
Yep.
but there are smaller ones that are local, and you just have to do your research too. They all kind of bill in a slightly different way. And so when you're doing your research, you have to make sure you're comparing apples to apples, because sometimes they structure it so it looks like it's apples to oranges, intentionally, because they want to try to sell you their services. And so you do have to do your homework with them. But it's identifying, like Amy said, understanding it first in-house, some of the basics with HR and the people aspect of it, and identifying what your true needs are for that
Yeah.
service.
Yeah. I think PEOs can be especially beneficial for transactional HR items, namely benefits administration, payroll, if that's not done in-house. When we get into the finer items of hiring, selection, performance, employee relations, I will always lean towards doing that in-house. It's just, we're people. It's far too intimate of a process to outsource, but there could be reasons why one might want to. So I'm not saying that's a terrible idea. It's just there's an intimacy around your people operations that can be done in-house with some research, with some education, understanding, and then maybe you say, you know what, I'm not going to deal with benefits administration or payroll or retirement. That I'm going to outsource. It's fairly transactional.
Excellent. I think what we're going to do now is open up for some Q&A from those of you participating. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here.
Yes, please.
And if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A, and we can then ask some direct questions to Amy from our participants. So at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a box that says Q&A. It's a little box with a question mark inside it. We like to post them in there so they don't get lost in the chat. We've had some great comments in the chat, so thank you for using that for those comments.
Thank you. I was going to ask what's the difference between the QA and the chat. You just answered that. So
Yeah.
perfect.
So while we're waiting, another question is, how can I offer non-monetary incentives such as flexible schedules or growth opportunities to retain employees?
The answer is within the question. Flexibility. That is especially for I'll say our younger generations. I've had half a dozen interviews this last year with folks who are early in their career, and they are very specifically and deliberately asking questions about work-life balance and how do we manage burnout with employees and other benefits or perks that they perceive as supporting that work-life balance and their mental health. That's so when I think back to those experiences, those are what we need to address is, okay, how are we going to manage that? What level of flexibility can I offer? If it's not even monetary benefits or financial trajectory is wonderful. But going back to one of my answers earlier around tell me that I'm valued, show me that I'm valued, that I am contributing to a thing, a person, a service, a product. That is very, very powerful. And then you can also have some monetary advantages. I've been a fan of very small increments of gift cards, meaning $5, but with a note from the boss or the manager or the owner saying, "We're so glad you're here. Get a cup of coffee on me." It's only $5, and I'm just using that as one figure. But that also, I've seen that work in, a handwritten note or something that suggests I'm seeing you as a human and it's personal, and that goes a long ways, a long ways. Even other and I know we were asking about non-monetary, but if you keep the dollar amounts low, it really has nothing to do with the dollar amounts. It's really the gesture and again that sense of belonging. When it comes to recruitment, consider offering a small referral bonus. All right, $50. If you can afford more, that's great. But going back to kind of that, where 50% of my hires were from referrals and from networking, that was huge because now you've got somebody who's saying, I want, Sam over here because I know Sam, and yeah, $50 is great, but we're building community. We're building community.
So we got some great questions in the Q&A
Okay.
from our participants. So one is from Jermaine. I'm not, the question's not the clearest, but we're going to try to navigate it. It says, where can I get help with getting my company and helping with paying employees? And Amy, I'm going to try to answer that. Jermaine, if you're struggling with your company and you're needing help to pay your employees, there's generally not funds out there other than your business to pay them. However, there are programs to help businesses to be more effective. There's coaching programs. One of the programs I work very closely with throughout the state is the Small Business Development Centers. They do no cost one-on-one technical assistance help, coaching businesses, helping identify where you can maybe grow or creating a strategy for growth and success. And again, they're no cost. There's also SCORE, SCORE. There's SCORE Greater Phoenix, SCORE Tucson, and SCORE Northern Arizona. Both of those are small business administration programs. They're no cost to the participants to leverage their resources. And then in different communities, you might have a women's business center that can help out. Even though it says women's business center, they will help any business with their federal grants that they receive. And then even chambers of commerce might be able to help, or different associations. Local First has some great programs. I do a lot of stuff with them as well. So there are resources out there to help you with your business if you're struggling in that aspect. So want to jump to the next question. And is from Becky. It says, is it possible to be too transparent when recruiting? And she has some sub stuff, but I just want to go with that first question.
Sure. Sure, it is. I mean, the recruitment process is, this is what I have to offer. The candidate says, this is what I have to offer. So everyone's generally on their best behavior. I wouldn't sugarcoat if you've got, whether it's issues with product or service, or I wouldn't sugarcoat that. I would present that as an area of opportunity for somebody coming in, especially if they're going to be dealing with an area of the business that is not as efficient or where we want it to be. When it comes to transparency, I would get personal with the individual, but not too personal in this first stage. All right. And we can go to, basic recruitment questions that you should not answer or ask, but we can't control what a candidate shares. And I know we're speaking of even beyond the recruitment process, but this is what comes to mind. The questions about family or illness or anything that would be a protected class in the selection process, I'd stay away from those things. But I've sensed that there's something behind the question, though, around transparency.
There's a sub question
Okay.
in there that says, what should be saved for discussing in detail during the interview process? So there's a little bit in there. I'll read the whole question. It says, is it possible to be too transparent when recruiting? How much detail should be put into the job posting, including salary, daily job tasks, etc.? Sometimes I think I might be overwhelming candidates with too much info at the start. What should be saved for discussing in detail during the interview process?
Well, the job description, keep it simple. It should be a frame of the role and not every single piece of responsibility that goes into it. There's going to be nuance. So frame the role. And in your very initial discussions with a candidate, that's where you're focusing on. This is the role that we have. And the candidate says, okay, great. This is what I'm interested in doing. And let's see if there's an initial match. When in that, whatever second phase or stage of the interview process that you've built into your process, that's where we can start to just explore drives and motivations, right? What gets you up in the morning? Part of knowing what you want to do is knowing what you don't want to do. What don't you want to do? What was the best part of your last job? So you're really trying to uncover drives and motivations. Certainly personal life will come in. I've already mentioned, I think I've mentioned my husband, and maybe I haven't earlier with you, Robert. So then, okay, well, now I know a detail about this person. That's going to come up. I would really stay away from getting into the detail of their personal life during the selection process.
One thing it says saved for discussion in detail, that as a job seeker, one of the questions, because when I'm doing job interviews, I always ask, well, what questions do you have for us as an interview panel? But as a job seeker, when I wait towards the end and I get that question from the interviewer, I always like to ask, well, what does a typical day or typical week look like for this role? So be prepared to answer that, because if you don't know, it's really hard to give them an expectation of what they're looking at as far as the job goes. If you're expecting something but you can't share it, you can't articulate it, it might be hard to convince them that you're the place they want to work at.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll coach candidates before they go into an interview panel, and I say, ask the panel the hard questions, meaning, what's the best thing about this job? What is the biggest challenge that I'm going to face if selected for this role? Why do I want to work here versus, the 40 other gigs that are in town? As Robert just said, be prepared to answer that question.
Yeah.
Why here?
We got a little bit more time left, and we have two great questions. So I think the two questions we have left will probably take us to the end, just to give you a heads up on that. So the next question is, how can one go about transitioning contracted workers to employees and incentivize contract work when bringing in new talent?
Well, I'm going to make one assumption, and this, I guess this will not apply to this group here today. The one assumption is that perhaps you do have some benefit offerings other than salary. Oftentimes contractors do not have any type of health or welfare benefits especially if they have been what we'll call a 1099, meaning they're independently employed. They're oftentimes paying for their own insurance, paying for all of their own expenses, including their hardware and softwares that they may need to use. So just by the sheer being able to move and those are not my expenses anymore, and I get some health benefits, that's that usually is enough. Contractors can sometimes be earning slightly higher on a pay scale, but again, when you start to balance that out with any other benefit offerings, um, the sense of belonging again, and being part of something, as opposed to I'm a temp or I'm a contractor, there's that line there exists, even though it's invisible. There's an us them, so being part of the them is really something to look forward to. So I'm not sure if I've answered that question in full, but and then there's the transactional part of it, which I can certainly speak to or help with when that would be like hiring an employee. So
Yeah, I know of one business that went through that transition. Most of the people working for them, they were paying them as a 1099, and realized that that was not legally correct.
Oh, okay.
In the eyes of the federal government. This was before the federal government found out. So they were able to make the adjustment and bring everyone as employees and do things right. But there's a lot of businesses out there that will just hire somebody as a 1099 independent contractor when technically they should be hiring them as an employee. And that's something you really want to look out for, because
Yeah.
we go a decade without any issues.
Yeah.
As soon as that issue pops up, you may face some pretty severe ramifications. So
Yeah, and depending on the level or type of position, 1099 is hard on the person, on the employee. They have to do their own taxes. They have to, create their own, tax identification number. So there's effort on there. The other avenue would be to avoid maybe some of the legal challenges, would be a third party, an agency. Now, you're going to spend some money though, right? They're going to have a fairly, a fairly sizable markup. But the benefit that you get is that they're not your employee. You don't have to worry about anything. We still have the us them situation, but agencies have definitely a use and a benefit to organizations.
mhm. Excellent. And then we have one last question we'll ask before we wrap up, and I think it's a great one to kind of wrap up on. It says, what are your thoughts on pre-interviews, phone screens, questionnaires to help fine-tune the candidates we spend our time with, on in-person interviews? Sometimes we just interview without any pre-screen, and I think we might need to do it more.
Absolutely. I'm going to say pre-screen, and you can pre-screen either one-to-one on the telephone, or you can have some sort of pre-screening questions in your application. If you're looking for, not thinking of, you need somebody in a small call center, for example, there could be very specific questions that at least you get you down. Have you worked in a call center? Do you know this? Do you know that? And right, some pre-screening questions. Here at the ACA, we have a fairly robust screening process. So I want to say we've got 5 different points to our entire process, but it starts with a screening of the resume. And I have a kind of a rule around resumes. If the paper, meaning the resume, is 80% there, meaning I'm seeing the keywords and the skills and the experiences, and I've got 80%, they're worth a telephone call. I keep so one is the resume screen. Yeah, I'm seeing most of it there. I need to find out who's the person behind the paper. And from there, it's a short half-hour telephone call that I conduct. And half hour goes by very quickly, but I'm going to say, why'd you apply? Where do you live? Are you okay? All of the kind of base elements that I don't want to spend in person on. Can you work hybrid? Can you commute? Are you within the salary range? Is this something that you're interested in? If I can get those pieces, then the interview is much better time spent around who are you? let's talk about the role, the challenges, the opportunities, your drives and motivations, and really spending time on getting to know the human that is considering being part of your employ.
Yeah. I know of a small business, a local one out in Mesa it's an IT firm, and they were looking to hire a new IT person to help with increased load that they had. And they posted it, they got the job applications, they sorted through, came down to about 17 resumes they wanted to try to do some pre-screening interviews with, and then schedule interviews beyond that. Of those 17, only 9 responded to the phone calls. Even the message were left, a bunch of them didn't call back. And then of those 9, even a couple didn't even show up for their scheduled interview.
Yep.
So that really helps weed out people that you don't want to hire. If they're not willing to call you back or show up for an interview, you definitely don't want to hire them.
Absolutely. There will always be fallout, regardless of how you build your process or all the checkpoints that you have in there. There will always be fallout. Robert is exactly right in that, I can have 15 resumes, candidates. I'm like, these look good. I'm excited. Let's start talking to them. And very quickly, you'll see the 5 or the 3 that bubble up. Because, it's unfortunate. I still to this day, no call, no show. And these are to scheduled interviews.
Yep.
Right?
So
They just don't. So
yeah. So that's great. So great response on Amy. If you could post in the chat your email address, so those that are still on can have that if they would want to contact you for any quick questions.
absolutely.
And I'll preface that Amy is very busy, so she may not respond within an hour or 2 or a day, but she will get back to you. She's very good at that. So
Yes. Yeah, but happy to. This is I was sharing with Robert, this is an element of my HR world, to be able to train and educate, coach, mentor, anything to impart guidance, that this is one of the best parts of my role. Other than offering people jobs and, changing lives. So happy to help.
Excellent. And again, if you do email Amy, please reference this webinar so she knows some context on the contact that you're making. But with that, we want to thank everybody for being here with us today. Again, Amy's one of our experts. We couldn't do it without her. And we could do these without all your attendance. If you find value in these, feel free to shoot me an email. You got my email with the Zoom reminder. Shoot me an email back. Hey, I found this beneficial. Thank you. Whatever. We are always glad to hear those, and we like to share some of those quotes from our attendees on the success they're having. So we always like to hear that. With that, we will go ahead and wrap up. We are right at 10 o'clock. Again, thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Amy. And we hope to see you on either Thursday for the Lunch and Learn or next Tuesday for our next boot camp session. Until then, everybody have a great week.
Great. Bye. Thank you. Take care.